All right, welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Sports Management Club at IUPUI's Virtual Speaker Series. Today's our second one of the day, and tonight's guests are coming to us all the way from Green Bay, Wisconsin. We've got Joan Malchesky, the Director of Brand and Marketing for the Green Bay Packers, and Reece Oliver, who's in the executive sales portion of their sales department. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about this historic franchise, what these folks do for the franchise, and any types of tips and advice that they might give you to try to get you in to the sports industry. So I'll start out with Joan. I will start with you and kind of tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into the Packers? How did you get into the business of branding and marketing, right? And kind of just who are you?
Sure. So my background stemmed from, I majored in communication at the Wisconsin system, and I didn't know if I wanted to do journalism or advertising. And I felt, you know what, I think I'm going to go communication because I think there'll be more job possibilities that way. But my intent was to really lean more in the advertising side. After college, I worked for agencies for about 15 years, which really starts to date me. And then when I was at my last agency, I was there for 10 years, and my number one account was the Packers. So I worked with everybody in the office, from ticket office to we have our own retail, which is the Packers Pro Shop. We have events. They had a Hall of Fame, stadium tours, anybody and everything, anybody who needed anything in the building just called me. So I was a very familiar face within the building. And then fast forward, a new VP came in and wanted me to work on some strategy for him because they wanted to bolster up their digital department. At the time, it was ran through PR. And so what that means, their digital department was all of the social media, everything that would be on the website, packers.com, as well as all the content for game day programs. And so I helped him with that strategy, and he had to first sell it internally. We have a board of directors, not an owner. And I worked for about 3 months on it and figured out who the types of people he needed to hire, what the organizational structure would look like, who reported to whom, and that passed through the executive team on the board. And then it went, I should say internally, then it went to the executive full board, and we worked another couple of weeks on that, and that passed. And he called me and said, great news, it passed, and we found the perfect person to run it. And I'm like, well, that's great. Who's that? And he's like, you. And I'm like, you know, I loved my job, and so I was a little trepidatious as far, even though I'm from Wisconsin and I love the Packers. You know, someone once said, never turn down the opportunity for a job interview, even though you might not want the job. So I said, how about we meet for lunch? And so I met him for lunch, and the next thing you know, I was interviewing with HR and marketing, and Mark Murphy, who's our president and CEO, and they made me an offer, kind of like The Godfather, an offer that I couldn't refuse. So I've been with the team for 10 years, or 10th season. We count seasons, not years. So my 10th season, but my 9th year. So I started with the digital department, and we grew that it started with 6 people, and we grew it to 14 to not only include the social, all the writing for the website and that component, but we grew it into hiring people for creating our own TV internally through packers.com. So we ran our own, my last part of that role was to hire all of the production and Predator, editor type folks. And it became too much because within 6 months, they handed over brand and marketing to me as well, which covers our customer data warehouse, all the research, business intelligence, creative, our sister website and social platforms of Packers Everywhere. And all the emails we send over 220 million emails a year. So my plate was really full. So it transitioned to a great guy who's running kind of the digital now. And my main focus is brand and marketing, which I mentioned is the research, analytics, obviously all the brand, normal marketing kind of components, the creative. So everything you see from ticket design, any pieces of collateral, or mostly all of the digital, any emails, e-newsletters. We go through about 2,000 projects a year, and we have 2 full-time designers, and we have 1 intern there. And then from the standpoint of analytics and email building and all that, we place over 550 million ads on Packers.com, and we do all the metrics for that as well to see how our sponsors are doing. We write up every campaign. You'll see Salute to Service kicking off next week, and all of the efforts behind that will come from our team. So if you follow our social, or at least do so for the week, we have another campaign called Glow Pack Glow. So our big saying is Go Pack Go. That'll be launching on the 1st. So all of the parts and pieces come from our department, all the placement and all the pushes, all the media scheduling, and all the back end metrics and analytics. But that's kind of me in a nutshell. And I look forward to connecting with you guys.
220 million emails. I thought that was a big number. Then you said 550 million ads.
Yes, it's crazy. And we also do the forecasting. So we have to figure out how many can our sales department sell, and we have to forecast how many eyeballs will be on site. So, it's a tricky wicket, so to speak. But we have a great team that does a really good job of monitoring all that.
I'll have to get into ask you more about the forecasting with all that's been happening for this season, right? Here shortly. Yes. Reece, I'll let you take the microphone and tell us a little bit about your background. Obviously, Indiana guy. You can explain that to everybody and let us know what's going on with you.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks, Kyle, for reaching out to us and asking us to be on this show. I mean, I think it's a good thing that what you guys are doing and giving college students an opportunity to learn from other people in the industry, whether people work for sports teams or just people around the industry. So thanks for having us. So I grew up in Indiana. Actually grew up in Crawfordsville, Indiana, if anyone knows where that is, close to Purdue, like 30 minutes away. I always wanted to work in sports all growing up. I mean, that's all I did was play sports, want to play in the NFL one day, just, typical boy growing up in Indiana. Once I got into college, I had really no idea what I wanted to do. Probably similar to a lot of people that are maybe even in this chat or in this Zoom today. I knew that I wanted to do something in sports, but didn't know exactly what. I actually started and majored in physical education and wanted to be a PE teacher and a coach, similar to my mom, actually. But I quickly realized that wasn't for me once I started going into the schools and doing that. So I kind of, for a couple of years, just wobbled back and forth, not knowing what I wanted to do. And then eventually my brother, who at the time was the strength and conditioning coach for the Philadelphia Flyers NHL team, said, "Hey, come do an internship with the Philadelphia Flyers and just, on the business side, and maybe you'll learn something, maybe you'll like it." So I changed my major to sports management, and that was my first in. I did an internship with the Philadelphia Flyers and really learned all about sales and marketing and just everything on the business side of the sports industry. Really, really enjoyed it. Obviously, went through school, finished school. While I was in school, I did a couple other internships with the Indiana Pacers, and then also the Evansville Icemen, which was a minor league hockey team. And then, once I graduated, I got lucky enough to start with the San Francisco 49ers. They were opening a new $2 billion stadium in California, which at the time was supposed to be the nicest stadium in the world ever being built. They obviously needed people to come out and sell PSLs and suites to open their new stadium. So jumped on that, sold suites and PSLs there. And then from there, the NFL started a company called NFL On Location. It was owned partially by the NFL. They were kind of manning it with a couple other investors. They asked me to come on and sell tickets and suites for the Super Bowl. So at the time, my boss with the 49ers went to be the vice president there, brought me over, and I did that for a while. Great opportunity. Obviously, I mean, I was selling the biggest sporting event in the world, or one of the biggest sporting events in the world, in the Super Bowl. So sold suites and tickets for the Super Bowl for a couple of years. And then when this job became available, it was a no-brainer for me. Like I said, I did grow up in Indiana, but I was a huge Packers fan. I grew up watching Brett Favre, Donald Driver, all of the legends. And so when this job became available, I jumped right on it, interviewed, went through the process, and got the job. It was kind of like a dream come true, working for your favorite sports team as a little kid. So I've been here. This is my third season. I will hopefully be here for a very long time, as I definitely enjoy the job. I think that's the most important thing for all of you young college students and everyone listening, that you really want to find something that you enjoy doing, because you don't want to do it for 30 years and not be happy. So, but with my current role with the Packers, I sell suites. So we do work with the marketing department quite a bit on different marketing campaigns, email marketing campaigns, graphic designs, all kinds of stuff. But my main focus is to sell suites to companies in Wisconsin or around the Midwest, or really around the country. We have holders all over. So, you know, if a Fortune 500 company in Wisconsin doesn't have a suite, my job would be to reach out to them to try to get them to buy a suite, whether that would be for one game or for every game, for multiple years. So we're dealing with, you know, 6-figure contracts, and going out to all those corporations and trying to get those guys to buy a suite with us, where they can in turn host their customers and clients in our suites, which, if you've ever been to Lambeau Field, it's one of the best experiences in terms of premium seating, really probably in the world, but definitely in the NFL. So that's the job in a nutshell. But yeah.
So we spend a lot of time in our classes and outside of classes even talking about getting experiences as well as networking. Joan, you talked a little bit about how you kind of fell into the position you're in through your work. Explain that a little bit as to what we mean by saying go get those experiences while you're in school to help you to understand networking to get you into the job.
Right. I think, you know, when we look at candidates, we look for, and I know I'm a little bit of an anomaly, but technically I was in sports because I was working with everybody internally. So it's not that I was not working in sports at all, but, you know, building relationships was key. But when we look at resumes that come in, I will tell you, if we posted an internship for marketing, which we do on teamworkonline.com. That's TEAMWORK online.com. When we post for an internship for our department, typically we will receive about 450 applications. So that tells you the competitive nature. And in order to weed them out, the first thing we look at is, do they have some kind of connection to sports somehow? Did they play sports? Did they work in the athletic office? Did they work around the football team, basketball team, softball team, any team-based sport or individual sport, work with the tennis team, whatever. We want to know that you've had experiences with, you know, whatever the job is most germane to. We get a lot of people that are super passionate about the Packers. And me personally, it's a nice to have, but essentially I will just tell you some of our best candidates come from out of state. And the reason why that is because they aren't necessarily a fan of the Packers, but they are passionate about creative, copy, proofreading, building ads, sending emails, doing analytics, running reports, so what we really want to see is a passion for someone that they have a passion for the craft. Two of my best interns were huge Bears fans. Doesn't really matter to me. Don't really want them sporting it in the office, and we can give them a hard time when they lose, but hopefully, but the key is that you're really having a passion for the craft and that you have experience of the craft, and networking is good. There's a lot of ways you can also work for teams part-time. For example, on a normal year and on COVID season, we hire over 3,000 guest services people on game day. It might be people who run photo cards from the press box to the field. It might be guest services, helping fans find out where they need to be. I know the ticket office has a ton of people that just work part-time on game day to help, because there's such a flood of people at the will call office. There's we have a whole team of people that just help fans who are not mobilely savvy with their game tickets. So even if you're not in team sports or at the athletic department, try and get something part-time, even if it's for a semi-pro baseball team. We want to see that you have a vested interest in sports. Education is great. We do want to see a little bit of passion for sports, but we don't want the super fans. We don't want people who are these enormous Packers fans that we're afraid to have you in the office, because if players roll in, you're going to be weird and that won't look good for our department. So those would probably be some of my tips that I would give. And I would say, know that if you get a call back for even a phone interview with 450 applicants, you're doing a lot of things right, even if you wouldn't get the job. I know that's probably no consolation, but that is something I like to pass along.
That might be one of the best pieces of advice I've ever heard right there. If you get the phone interview, there's 450 other people that are looking for the same thing. You must be doing something right.
Right.
So, Reece, your experience is a little bit different. Obviously, she's coming from a much, I guess you could say, diverse, right? Graphic design, things like that. You're coming from the sales perspective. Talk a little bit about what you think a student should be doing during their college career. We have a pretty solid sales program with Dr. Pierce and one of my colleagues, and he works with the Indianapolis Indians and the Indy Fuel and has them actually do a sales center. But that's just one class. How would you suggest that they get into that industry as a student?
Well, I think like Joan said, just getting experience while you're in college. I mean, there's like Joan said again, there's so many different opportunities to do something. A lot of our people that work in the ticket office or work on our team or around the building maybe started working in the pro shop when they were in college or in high school, or started working as a part-time ticket taker or whatever it is. But I mean, in the sales industry, I think a lot of people have the misconception that sales is the way to get into the sports industry. I mean, if you're not passionate about sales, going back to what Joan was saying again, I mean, you shouldn't want to go into sales then. Like, you have to be passionate about what you're doing. So if you don't want to go into sales, don't go into sales. I mean, that you have to be passionate about calling people all day, meeting with clients, driving hours to meet with one client to pitch them on a suite or a ticket package or whatever you're trying to sell. So I don't necessarily think I know a lot of people do say it's the foot in the door, but I don't necessarily view it that way. I'm very passionate about what I do, and I think it's a craft to be able to sell a C-level executive a $500,000 contract. So, I mean, I think what they're doing today, just getting advice from people that are in the industry, connect with as many people on LinkedIn as possible, reach out to people that are working in sports, go to every networking event possible that you see on the calendar. But, also try to get as much experience as you can doing an internship and again, it doesn't have to be in sales. If you want to work in the facilities department, do a facilities internship, or if you want to work in marketing or game entertainment, there's so many different internships that you can go into. So again, I don't think that you should just go into a sales internship or take an inside sales job right out of college because one day you think you may want to work in the marketing department with Joan's team. Only do the sales internship if you think you want to work in sales. That's kind of my advice.
That makes perfect sense. We don't try to tell them it's a foot in the door. We tell them it's the position with the most jobs available. Let's just put
for
it that
sure
way.
It is. Definitely. That is true. I mean, if you go on Teamwork Online, the majority of jobs are going to be in sales, inside sales, group sales, whatever. And then you get promoted from there. But yeah, you're right that's definitely going to be the most opportunities because it is the lifeblood of an organization. The whole point of an organization is, or one of the biggest objectives is to generate revenue, right? So a lot of teams have 30 salespeople selling season tickets. Us, we have literally, I'm the only person on the staff with my manager that sells suites for the Packers. But we're in a very fortunate situation. Most teams have 20, 30 salespeople that do sell season tickets.
We've kind of grounded our program in our sport management program in teaching students to become problem solvers. So how would you think, and this is for either one of you, how would you think I guess you could say, how can the student market that themselves? Because they may not be solving a problem for an industry partner until late on in their career, but how could they market the fact that maybe they did a project that solved the problem? Like they came up with the problem, they found it, they solved it. How would you, and I guess, Joan, that's more directed at you being in that area. And I saw that on your LinkedIn that you're a problem solver, right? So, that's kind of, I guess you could say, how can students market that?
Yeah, I think, having it on your cover letter or resume is one thing as a core attribute to who you are. But I think the way you deliver on that is through the phone interview or the in-person interview to give examples, because most people will ask for examples within those categories. But you could say, something like, right now we're going through COVID, and we have to take game day assets that have been sold to sponsors so that 81,000 plus eyeballs see it during the game, whether it's an ad on the board or it's a ad in a program. So, one example would be, took a sponsorship for game day, for example, Salute to Service, that fans would no longer see in person, and turned it into a successfully driven online campaign to showcase the sponsor in various ways. So I think it's examples, like that could be maybe included in a dialogue or even as a bullet point within how the resume is set up. And by the way, a couple things on resumes. There's never
Everyone take notes here.
There's never enough emphasis on this. So whenever I speak to college groups, couple tips. I have my interns that are currently with me go through all the resumes first, because they're in the position. They know what I'm looking for. They know what I need. So they give me an A pile, a B pile, and a C pile. And then there's a garbage pile. So if there is one typo on the resume, it's in the trash for us, because we are in the detail business. And you can say your attention to detail, but if there's a typo in it, you will never make it for our department. All we do all day long is proofread every email, every social post, and that's a really big deal for us. And I think the other thing about the resume is, don't make it one page. Whoever's teaching everybody that a resume has to be one page is fooling themselves. If you now don't stretch it out in a really big font to make it 2 pages, but there, you know what, include multiple bullets of things you did, even if you're a sandwich artist. There are plenty, you were given the responsibility to open, to close, to count cash, to go to the bank, whatever it is, you need to really sell yourself. Talk about the attributes, talk about whether you belong to a sorority or a fraternity and what your role was there. I mean, there's plenty of things to go into. Talk about your computer skill sets. We want Excel on there, even though you're in marketing. We want to know that you can build a deck in PowerPoint. We want to know that you have Prezi experience if that's your jam. We want to know you have some, you know, InDesign skills. You have mad social media skills. And I will tell you another thing, I will ask you for your social handles. So clean it up. That's all I'm saying. A lot of people ask them. So you just need to be ready for that. Even if you know, are pretty mild on it, just be prepared, because we have not hired people due to their social media handles. So you want to be really cautious, because, you know, the first thing you're going to put in your bio is that you're an intern at the Green Bay Packers. Typically, maybe it's not for you, but a lot of people do. And you therefore represent our brand. We're all for free speech, but, you know, it's within the guides of, is this a person we want to bring into our Packers family? So just be really careful about that. Now, I went on and on about that, and I don't remember your question. Did I answer your question?
You actually did. You basically told us that problem solving, highlighted in your
Yes,
resume
okay.
somehow, and then put it in your cover letter and make it an interview subject. And a lot of people, that's what I try to tell students, is that when you get to the interview, which you will, you need to make sure that you are hitting a set of talking points for yourself, and not just trying to tell them what they want to hear, you know, tell the hiring person what they want to hear, but you need to brand yourself a little bit and
bring examples.
And that point, if you are taking notes on this, that point about the social media, big old circle, like 7 loops around the social media thing, clean it up, because she's right. There are people that will not hire you. Reece, did you want to add something?
I was just going to say, I pretty much deleted all my personal social media accounts. I mean, and I'm not saying to do that, especially in Joan's world, she needs social media. But,
Right.
No, I mean,
sign up, Reece.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, I don't know. If you do have it, then yeah, you definitely need to be careful what you're posting. I mean, your interview starts when you're in high school, really, right? When you create that social media account. So if you have access to where the public can see everything, like, you need to be very cautious on what you're posting. And like Joan said, it's freedom of speech. Say what you want, have fun, show your family, all of that. But you know, your job interview starts before you get interviewed. So you need to definitely clean it up and make sure that everything is business appropriate before going into an interview. And the resume, yeah, I mean, I agree that it doesn't need to be 1 page. I mean, I think mine was 2 or 3. I mean, you need to list all your experiences. And if you only have 1 page, probably means you don't have a lot of experience, honestly. So yeah, no, I think there's no set rule. Just list all your experiences, but again, don't make it a 10-page book.
Right.
So now, Reece, you've got all these experiences climbing up. You've been San Francisco, you've been Philly, you've been in all these different places. How have they all led to this confluence of events that got you to Green Bay? The people, how were people involved in it? Kind of step us through the fact that you're a Southern Indiana kid, you go out to Philly, you go to Frisco, you're at Green Bay, right? You're all over the country. And that's not an easy thing. So there had to have been some people in that, I would assume, that kind of helped you along the way. How did you navigate that?
Yeah, I think it's really all about relationships and building relationships wherever you are. I mean, like you said, I had never been to California, and when I got the full-time job, I think I talked about this on a podcast a few months ago, but I literally got in my car with my dog and drove 32 hours to California. Never had been there. Nervous as heck, was going to work for, again, one of the biggest organizations, opening a brand new stadium, and had never been to San Francisco. So, but I think it's important to take risk and I mean, for me, like all of the places I went, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Green Bay now, Indiana, they're all very impactful, and I learned a ton at each place, but also built very important relationships with higher ups, whether it be a manager, director, vice president, that kind of helped me along each job. And when I was with the NFL selling suites for the Super Bowl, I connected with a lot of different impactful individuals around the country that also helped me out along the way. So, and built relationships with a lot of those people. And when I came to Green Bay, it helped me in my sales role sell a few of those people a suite with the Packers. So, but no, I think it's the number one important thing, I think, is building relationships with people, connecting with definitely as many people as possible, but building meaningful relationships. So getting to know your colleagues or the people that you work with, and really getting to know, what drives them, who they are, getting to know their family, because at the end of the day, it's all about relationships and people, and those people are going to help you out along the way, advance your career in the future. So. Yeah.
So with all of this, obviously there's a set of skills that you guys target, and they're two different, because yes, you're in brand and marketing, Joe, but they're going to be different skills for each different area. Reece, you start and kind of tell me, what kind of skills do you think that students need to have when they depart college to go in and be a good, strong salesperson?
Yeah. I think you learn a lot of them during your internships, but you need to be able to, first of all, you got to be pretty open-minded and outgoing. All the successful salespeople that I know are pretty outgoing. They're not shy. They don't get all nervous when they're going to talk to a C-level executive that maybe owns a Fortune 500 company. So, very outgoing, personable, and probably most importantly, a hard worker. I mean, sales, it's not easy. You're going to talk to 50 to 100 people a day, and 99% of the time you're going to be told no. I mean, most people don't want to buy what you're selling. Luckily with the Packers, more people in Wisconsin want to buy the Packers than some other teams. But I mean, again, most people that you're talking to are not going to want to buy the product you're offering. And it's even become more challenging, I think, during COVID, but also as people kind of get away from phone communications. I mean, I get sales calls to my phone every single day, and 99.9% of the time I just hang up, right? I don't even know what they're offering half the time. So in a sales role, you have 10 seconds to make an impression when you talk to someone to kind of get them in tune to what you're saying. Or you have an email that you really need to be creative and target towards that person that you're talking to or sending the message to. It's not, hey, I'm trying to sell tickets or I'm trying to sell a suite. It's, you need to do research on the person you're emailing to find out where he went to college or something about him that's going to catch his attention when you email him. Because I email people all day as well, not from the marketing side where they send out mass email communication. I'm emailing and calling individuals, and I have to catch their attention, whether it be the first line of the email or the first line of the voicemail that I leave for them to call me back. And nowadays you got to be creative. Maybe it's sending text messages to people, or sending them a LinkedIn message, or handwriting a card and mailing it to their office. But you got to be pretty creative, and but you definitely have to be a hard worker. I mean, you have to be willing to come in early and stay late and kind of get promoted within or outside the organization. But I don't think there's no one skill that I would say is the main skill that you have to have, but I think being personable and outgoing is probably the most important.
How about in your area, Joan? How about it? You guys you've got a plethora of different types of people that you work with, and not saying you don't, Reece, but in Joan's side of things, there's so many different designers and all kinds of people. What kind of things stand out to you as far as that skill set that college students should try to develop?
Yeah, it's a good point. We do run the gamut between really creative thinkers right on the design side, and then we have the analytical people who manage our customer data warehouse. They're sending out the emails, they're building, they're coding, they're testing. And they're also coming up with subject lines, right? So, you know, for us, one thing that carries across no matter what job they're in for our department is attention to detail. That's probably one of the top skill sets that people need. Everything we do is complete detail. We have to build asset sheets for sales. So in other words, salute to service, which I mentioned before. Fleet Farm is going to be the sponsor. So we need to make sure there's, you know, 4 social media posts on it. There's 3 photo galleries on Packers.com. There's a marquee board. Okay, there's 50 things that go with this program. So everything's got to be flying at the same time, right? So we have to build all these assets, and then we have to build a link so that people can link to it, and then we have to build them the right way, and then we have to measure it on the back end. And if any of the details drop, like it's the wrong size for Instagram for this graphic, or it's the wrong size for the marquee board, it becomes it's running on the wrong day, it's the wrong link. So everybody's got to be firing at all cylinders in terms of attention to detail. And the other thing is, you know, problem solving in a way, creative problem solving. There's a lot of times where we just have to figure stuff out. We've never done it before. We've never taken all of our game day assets and tried to flip it to digital, right? So we're in a completely different atmosphere. It's not step and repeat like many of our projects are. We have to come up with new initiatives. So, you know, a lot of our interns, I have them spend a week of time, find me new ideas, scour the internet for all other sports leagues and teams, see what they're doing, see how we can create meaningful programs, not one-off tactics. You know, so we like people who can dig in and volunteer and find things and make it a robust campaign. So we are helping solve the problems of salespeople not being able to sell their usual inventory. We're working on how can we create more eyeballs to the site with unique content. So every time you click to Packers.com, we can serve you a new set of ads. So we have to really think largely, and it's also connecting the dots with all the different departments. That's something we have to do. We look at ourselves as almost like an in-house agency. We have the ticket office, you know, and premium, which Reece is the department Reece is in, is a client. The pro shop is the client. Our digital team is a client. Football is a client. We do all the game balls, all the t-shirts, all the football graphics, all the offensive binders, the defensive binders, the play sheets, not the play calls. So it's like we have all these different subset of clients, and then we have to figure out, okay, we have this huge influx of work. How are we going to problem solve to get all of it done on time, on budget, in a quality way, with great customer care and service? So, you know, it's juggling all those things. Sometimes we need a lot of hands on deck. So we like people who are of the same mindset. If someone's in trouble, we're all going to help out. So I think problem solving and attention to detail would probably be the 2 core things that we most look for. So with our group, you know, you can learn to program an email, but can you fix it on the fly, right? If you have the skill set, how good is the skill set? We want to make sure that you're educated and you're excited about attending a seminar on how the next 2.0 version of that software is going to be. That, you know, we want you to be ahead of the curve. We want to lead the league wherever we can, or at least be in the top quartile in whatever we do or produce.
All right, don't forget, everybody, the Q&A. Drop some questions in there. All right, I'm looking at the Q&A here, and I got 2 questions in there. I need a few more than that, so let's throw some in there. Now I want to get a little candid with y'all. So how do you guys enjoy working at such a historic franchise? I mean, the history surrounding Green Bay with, you know, the public ownership, the things like that. You know, how does that differ from maybe, Reece, your experiences with the Pacers, or, you know, with the Flyers or something like that? I mean, is there a bigger amount of pride there? Do you feel like, Joan, same thing with you, do you accomplish something when you accomplish it, you feel like, yeah, I did it for the Green Bay Packers, sort of thing.
You want to go first, Reece?
Yeah, I can start.
Logging the
So
time.
I think our old coach, McCarthy, said it perfectly, that you kind of have to carry the G wherever you go. I think there's a lot of pride working for the Packers, and, you know, like Joan's department, like we represent the brand everywhere we're at. But it is kind of a small community. I mean, our stadium is in the middle of like residential neighborhoods, right? Like we're not in a big city like San Francisco or Chicago or wherever, you know, big city teams are. So I think the players feel a connection to the fans a lot more so here. I mean, they might go out to dinner and see players, or especially I know back in the day when it was more, a lot of the players would hang out with fans at bars and restaurants and stuff after games. So there's definitely more of a connection to, I think, our fans and our players. It does feel like just one family, really, where when I worked for the 49ers or the Pacers or the Flyers, I mean, and it's not a knack on them at all, it just didn't feel the same as what the Packers feels like. I mean, there's so many also just small things that we do as a company, whether it be we all go on an away game trip together, that the HR department plans, just little things like that. Lunches every week as companies before COVID. Just there's so many little things where it just feels like we're all connected and we're all a family, and we are. I mean, me personally, I definitely take a lot of pride in working for the Packers, and when we do well, whether it be on the field or off the field, whether it be doing the right thing for maybe the social injustice things that are going on around the country now, or just helping out in the community because of COVID, just so many different things. You take a lot of pride in that, and you're proud of the organization and the stance that we take on a lot of things. But that's just how I feel on my end.
I think for me, what I always tell people is it's everything you think it would be. I always feel fortunate that I have one of 32 jobs in the US. And I try to never forget that. You know, at the end of the day, it still is a job. So you will have up days and down days, or things that maybe don't go right. But, you know, more often than that, it's really a great time. We do Secret Santa. We have a chili cook-off. We do potlucks. Probably can't do those anymore due to COVID. So, you know, it's a lot of fun. And I'll tell you, my favorite thing about working there is this, which is my ID. And this gets me into Lambeau Field anytime I want, day or night, work hours or not. We can have meetings out in the bowl, and it's just, I mean, it's Lambeau Field. It's just super cool. And we do have a lot of huge perks. You know, we have a NFL pension. Pensions are something you'll care about later on in life. Not all teams have those. And, you know, I think that's one important thing with the Packers. You know, we don't have an owner. So when we make revenue, it doesn't go to an owner's new Learjet. That money goes right back into the Green Bay Packers, whether it's a new build on for the football facilities, or it's something for employees. Like we have a work nurse now. Again, you won't think anything of it now because you probably have healthcare in some format at the school. But you can go in anytime for that. We have staff dining, and you might not think a lot of that, but try packing your lunch every day for a lifetime. So there are a lot of great perks and benefits. And of course, one is, you know, tickets, which is a bittersweet kind of perk because we all get them, but we're all usually working, so we could never go. But we also gain a lot of friends because we are a sold out venue. A lot of friends come out of the woodwork and want tickets, but it is a nice work perk for friends and family for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably my favorite thing is game day. Even though I am working, just seeing everything come together from every single department, and the experience of Lambeau Field on game day, especially in the winter when there's a snow game, incredible experience. That's probably my favorite thing. And yeah, tickets is a huge perk. I leverage them a lot and get different things and trade people different things. And so it's a huge perk. And it's a good way for my family to come visit me because I have family in Indiana. My wife's family's from California. So it's a good way for people to fly out and visit us. And it's kind of a,
yeah, the 2 tickets for the Pacers that I always have for each home game. Sometimes if I don't have somebody fill them, I raffle them off in a trivia contest, which can usually take 4 or 5 questions before the students get them right. But I do it for the students and give them the tickets. So I got to ask, on the candid side again, do you ever catch yourself going to Lambeau Field, maybe just to get away, to kind of relax, kind of just see the site, kind of just soak it all in?
Usually I'm going to go on the field for a purpose. I have to check a sign, or I have to check, you know, if the lights are on the field, if we're doing a photo shoot, we have some lights from Europe, you know, so I do check it out once in a while. We like to go out there and take photos when it's snowing or there's an overcast storm. We have hashtag Packers Weather Club. If you want to learn more, go on Twitter. For all you Twitter people out there, look up hashtag Packers Weather Club, and we have like a fake weather club that we set up that we just share photos of, you know, when it's storming or snowing, and you know, we shoot TikToks out there and you know, and just kind of goof around. But yeah, we do have quite a bit of tomfoolery on it. I think between the ticket Reese's group and our second floor, we're kind of the craziest of the groups internally. But yeah, we have a lot of
anticipate
fun.
That from marketing and branding folks to be
Yes.
kind of the free spirit a little bit more than.
Yes, on our floor, it's events, all the digital and broadcast guys, brand and marketing, and yeah, so it's a really fun group.
Yeah, we are just the ticket office and the premium sales department. We have a lot of fun too. We have different gatherings in our office all the time, and after games, we may sneak into the office and have a couple waters and enjoy the win. And so, yeah, no, it's I don't think I sneak off there just on an off day, but I did. Well, maybe on Saturdays before games, I'd take my family lot and go up to the top. And because the day before games, we typically on a normal year, we get to tour the stadium. And that's the one time we get to go into the locker room and show our family the locker room and go up to the top of the stadium and overlook everything. So, yeah, I think the day before games historically would be the time that I do go there and kind of just enjoy the experience before game day.
I caught myself heading down to the court at Assembly Hall and turning the lights on and playing basketball at 2 a.m. when I just got off of work when I was a grad student.
Yeah, that's the one thing they won't let us on the field. That's the one place.
That's the killer part. Yeah, that's the killer part. I can't blame them, right? You can't blame them with trying to keep the grass nice and everything. So,
yeah.
All right, Kyle, we've got a few questions in the chat, so I'm going to have you kind of take over and moderate those, and you can stop hearing my voice for a couple of minutes.
Perfect. Well, thanks for both of you for being here tonight. So we'll start off with a question for both of you. What is one of the most helpful skills you have developed in your job or that you use the most?
I think understanding everybody's goals. With marketing, it's really around 2 things. It's about the audience and the message. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're developing tickets or building a program or anything like that, understanding the audience and message. And then I would just fall back on being a good problem solver and attention to detail, which we covered.
Yeah, besides what I talked about earlier, I think another one would be contract negotiation. There's a lot of back and forth with contracts and it's crazy. At the time when I was in the sports management program in school, I thought the legal class was going to be something I never used. And now that I look back, I'm actually involved with legal quite a bit, whether it be contract changes for suites or contract negotiation, but that's definitely a useful skill. So definitely pay attention in your sports law classes.
So Reece, since your sales are usually higher than just like the general season tickets or single game tickets, do some of your meetings like take place in person? I mean, obviously, you said $500,000, some of the deals are. So do you prefer doing those in person or over the phone, or are most of your sales over the phone?
Yeah. So if someone just wants a suite for one game, it's usually over the phone. But my main job is definitely to find people that want a suite for multiple years. So the majority of those are definitely in person. The whole goal is to get someone down to the stadium, take them to lunch, show them our suites and what our premium experience is, and go into detail of what's involved. I mean, I can send over an email with a deck attached, but that's probably not going to get someone to sign a contract for $500,000 or $100,000 even. So yeah, the main objective is to get decision makers down to the stadium. And once they're in Lambeau Field, I mean, what we've talked about, it's such an incredible experience that I think I was counting the other day, like 80 or 90% of people that I have actually had to the stadium have bought something. So once they're there, it's kind of a lot easier path to sell them on something, even if it falls back on just a suite for one game. Most people that come to Lambeau Field or meetings that I have, they do buy. Now with COVID, and I think there's a COVID question coming up, it's impacted us immensely. We can't, I mean, just recently now we can start having people to the stadium to show them our suites and try to sell them something. But yeah, I mean, March through July, we couldn't even have anyone at the stadium for meetings, and it's been tough. I mean, we don't have fans in our stadium right now, so how can you sell something that we aren't even allowed to have? My focus at this point is definitely on selling suites for 2021 because we're already 2 months left of the season, so that's the focus is next year, and hopefully we're back to full stadiums in 2021. But yeah, I definitely want to get people to the stadium for meetings.
So there was a COVID question. You kind of answered it, but this kind of goes to both of you. So how has your game day roles changed due to COVID, and what is an empty Lambeau Field like? Because that place gets a little crazy on game days, especially in the winter and whatnot. So what is an empty Lambeau Field like?
I'll let you go, Reece.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'll go first. So our ticket office is still working because we do have a few people in the building, whether it be the away teams, practice squad players, or ownership or whoever. So the ticket office still has a few people here on game day, but for the most part, my department premium is not here. We are willing to help out if guest services needs help with something, because again, there are a few people in the building. But for the most part, my game day role is non-existent right now, which is not good. So again, hopefully 2021, we're back to having fans. But yeah, I've heard Lambeau is very eerie and very weird without fans. I think our quarterback has mentioned it many times that he's hopeful that we have fans, because it's a very strange feeling to, I mean, that's what makes Lambeau special, right? Is to have 80,000 people here. So it's a strange feeling for sure.
Joan, I wanted to add something to that. How has that affected your role with the virtual fan experience, right? You're in that world now where there's got to be a virtual experience, right?
Right. I'll tell you what, it's not great. Yeah, it affects us quite a bit, but we have a really robust social presence, and we've just beefed it up. So the printed game day program is now digital. We're sending out more emails. The social presence is broader, but I mean, we'd have a fan walkway that would normally have 15 to 20 sponsors with food samples and stuff like that. We'd have, concessions. We'd make money on that. So there's obviously revenue is down, but we can only control the controllables, right? We can't sell concessions on game day, but we're doing game day live where people can come up to the stadium and pick up food to go for their family at home. So it's like, how do you take things and spin it on its side? As far as us for game day, just to dovetail off of Kyle's the student's question, the league is only allowing 150 people into the building, so it's only the essentials. And right, like our typical game day role, I work with Titletown, and that's a development west of Lambeau Field. They have a dotted line to me, so I check their activations on game day. We're bringing in, we also run the kids fan club. we run the rewards program, and so we take winners down to the field. Well, that doesn't exist. Sometimes we run anthem singers up to suites and help out the game day presentation people. That's not happening either. So our role is, not as significant. So there's no reason for us to be in the building. So I'm not in the empty Lambo, which, there are people that have worked here for 20 years that are now not at game day either. So, but everything's just flipped on its side, and all we're trying to do is control the controllables and really try to, make lemons out of lemonade, or make lemonade out of lemons, and really try to find the right fit for partners so that we can make good on their contracts, because they did pay us money to have their brand showcased in front of 81,000 plus fans.
Yeah, and I also will just add, I didn't realize how much I missed fans. I went to my first NFL game this year in Tampa Bay a couple weeks ago when the Packers played, and there were only 15,000 fans, and it really, I had butterflies. It was really incredible to see fans at a game again in the stadium, and just makes you realize how much we miss it, and probably how much we took it for granted, because it was something we've always done in our life, right? Is go to sporting events with tons of fans, and it's something that's missed a lot by me, and I think our entire organization, because our fans are what makes us the Packers.
So as the Packers obviously are publicly owned, do you guys have any more restrictions or even more freedom than just like a normally owned, say like the Atlanta Falcons, they have an owner. Do you guys have more freedom as a publicly owned team? Especially with Joan's spot, do you have for marketing, do you have more freedom than another team would that has an actual owner?
I wouldn't say freedom as much. I think there are some inherent differences. We all have to follow the NFL rules and guidelines, which, they're pretty even and fair. And so I think, sometimes it's great that Mark is in the position he is, because he does have a great executive board, a great board in general. So he has the best business minds helping him in making decisions. And I think, sometimes that's beneficial, because, we're not relying on one person to make the decision. Ultimately, Mark makes the decision, but he has a really great, deep pockets as far as resources at his disposal. And I think that's helpful. But, with our marketing, we always try to stay on brand. And so we try not to rock the boat too much. I mean, there are certain rules and things we follow, probably more so than other teams. So I don't know, maybe it's just kind of a different scenario for us, on the financial side. But I think, there probably are some additional advantages, that we do have some flexibility. One example I would say, and I'll never forget it, I went in my first budget cycle and I just said, we have such passionate fans. We'd just like to do a surprise and delight campaign. So if there's a huge Randall Cobb fan, we'd like to send them a Randall Cobb autographed jersey or something like that. And there's a classroom in Kansas City, the teacher's really passionate about the Packers and teaches her third grade class about geography and the Packers and where all the players are from and stuff like that. And she's a huge Jordy Nelson fan. So, I'd like to do a surprise and delight. Could we spend, $10,000 to make this happen? It's not about media or impressions. It's just a surprise and delight for our fans. And Mark sat back and he was thinking about it. I'm like, oh boy, this is my first budget. It's not going well. And he's like, I think we can do better than that. Let's do $20,000. So, he gets it. He gets the fan base. He understands that connection and how important it is to reach out to our fans, especially because we are a sold out venue. So I think there are some inherent differences with our brand and the way we're structured. And that would just be one example.
So the next two questions are more for you, Joan. The first one is, you said that you have people put their social media handles on applications. So if someone's social media is private, how do you view that? I know you probably have a special tool that
Yes, it is not required. We don't have that as part of the application. So typically, if they are not on the resume, I will ask them during the interview, could I have your social media handles? And a lot of times people can't remember theirs. There's a tip. But who knows, you know, you make it when you're in high school and it's like, oh, it's like an embarrassing thing or whatever. But so I usually ask during the first phone interview or the in-person or Zoom interview. And I say, well, here's my handle, so let me in. That's how that's how it happens. If you're interested in the job, why wouldn't you show me your social?
True. And then what is something specific that stands out to you in an interview or a resume?
Resume, what's most interesting to me is that one, they have no typos. I would say but what stands out the most is that it's not virtually empty, that there's some substance. And what I really like the most, and this is probably just a me thing, not necessarily representative of everybody, I really like to see hobbies. I want to see that you're awesome at macrame or crocheting, or that you have a spider collection, or that you know you've read every Harry Potter book 14 times. We're very big on personality, and I think a hobbies section really helps. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be in sports, or, you know, it can just be something fun, you know, or personal facts, you know, that are just, you know, we are in marketing. You might not want to do that for, you know, an HR or an IT interview, but we really like to get a sense of the person. And we ask a lot of interesting questions, I'll say, that we try and pull out personality within the interview.
So what are some of those questions?
Oh, I don't want to tip my hand. Okay, I'll ask you an actual interview question that I ask. Kyle, what would your best friend say about you?
He has to answer it on the spot for everyone.
Yes, please answer that.
Oh, that's brutal.
You're not doing good in the interview, Kyle.
I know.
Not yet.
I know. I don't even know, because my friends could say some bad things about me.
That's not the question.
They'd probably say I'm very toxic, which is not okay. I'm toxic in the competitive environment. Yeah.
You got put on the spot on this one, man.
See what happens when you get put on the spot?
You're gonna have to clip this part and just bash me on social media, sure.
And there's a follow-up question to that, and so I'm not going to even ask you that one because it'll just go downhill from there. But anyway, that's one example that we will ask, and you know, or I'll ask, tell me about a really good idea that you had that was new, that no one else thought of. You know, so I want to know how they think. How soon can they respond to the question? It doesn't really matter what the idea was, even if they pull it out of thin air. I just want to see that you're a creative problem solver on the spot.
Interesting. Well, I got put on the spot tonight, so that's good. So the next question is directed at you, Reece. To what capacity is analytics used in sales?
We find a lot of, or I personally find a lot of data before I reach out to prospects. So I use a few different tools. There's a lot of different sales companies and tools that we can use. There's one called Zoom Info. There's one called IQ. I mean, there's tools out there that we can find data on a CEO, and it basically tells us what makes them tick, what drives them to buying decisions, what, you know, who their wife is, what college they went to. So there's definitely tools that we have that we use to find all this information on someone before we reach out to an individual to pitch them a $500,000 contract. So I think that's very important. And marketing probably uses data and analytics just as much as we do. But yeah, no, going into every conversation or going into every email that I send, I again find data and use analytics to see who that person is. And also there's tools that you can, track who opens your email and did they read it and all kinds of different things like that. So yeah, no, we definitely use it a lot on the sales side.
So you know your client more going into the sale, like
100%.
going into the sale.
Yeah, no, 100%. I almost never, when I worked for the 49ers and I was selling season tickets, yeah, I called people out of the blue, knew nothing about them. Now going into every conversation or meeting, I know a lot about that person before I meet with them. And I know a lot about their company and what that company does and how much money that company makes and all about that person's family. There's a lot of tools that you can use, including social media, to find all that information. The more you know about the prospect, the better.
And I would say for us on our end, we use analytics in a ton of ways, not only to measure our success of campaigns, whether it be on the social side for number of engagements, but also like Packers.com. Right now, we are down in male viewership between the ages of 45 to 54. And that's our current issue right now. We're trying to figure out why that is. So right now we're looking into education level and we're trying to make the leap that maybe males in that age bracket are more interested in the election right now than sports. So those are, that would just be one example we're trying to look at. Or maybe we just need a bro series or something more interesting for that demo. I'm not sure what it is.
I like that, a bro series. I love that. Kyle, is there any other questions that come and pop out of your head?
Oh, we have one that just came through the YouTube chat.
Perfect.
So this student was curious how you stay optimistic and bring your best every day, even if outside circumstances are not positive.
Reece, do you want to go?
For me, it's a tough year. I think with COVID and all the social stuff going on, and the election being an election year too, it's a tough year. There's a lot of people that may not agree with what you're doing or we're doing, but I just remind myself of again how lucky I am to be in the position that I'm in, and I try to keep a positive attitude no matter what is happening. I mean, we're alive. I'm healthy. My family is, and so for me, it's pretty easy to stay positive every day. There's a lot of people in this world that don't have it as good as everyone probably on this chat. So yeah, no, for me, it's pretty easy to stay positive every day, no matter what's going on outside of it. I mean, at the end of the day, I work for the Green Bay Packers in the National Football League. So I feel like I'm pretty lucky and blessed.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy for us because we just have to plow through. And the one thing I really love about being on the marketing side is you have something different every single day. There's a new problem, a new challenge, a new campaign. And that kind of breathes life into our department every day. And a lot of times it's a complete fire hose spraying at us with the amount of work we have. But I mean, COVID's just another new challenge for us. And it makes it most challenging because it's not step and repeat from last year, right? Like a normal season. So we're hoping to get through this. And if COVID continues, hopefully not, but we're going to be able to step and repeat all of the great things that were done this year and come up with even more new things. But our team is overall, our department is completely optimistic all the time. I mean, we're just high energy, firing on all cylinders. Our group is just amazing. So I'm really fortunate to have the type of department that I have. There's not like one outlier or two outliers that are a cancer to our team, because that just wouldn't fly with us. That doesn't work in our environment at all. So I think we've done a lot of cool things. I think we do a show and tell or show and share every week that someone has to show us something from their house. We've done a goat to meeting. So like go to meeting, but it's goat. We went to a goat farm and they had llamas. And so we got a whole tour of this farm. So we try to mix it up a little bit because, it gets tough sometimes week to week. You're always on Zoom or Teams or FaceTiming. So it's nice to have just a little bit of change of pace. Oh, and we usually have pizza day when it's a home game during the week. So Monday or Thursday, we order pizza for the floor. So we're not in the office. So what I did is I had the intern order pizzas for everybody in our department and it was delivered to their house just to, give it a little bit more of a sense of, hey, it's, pizza day. And the reason why is because you can't really leave. If it's a Monday night game, you're in the office from 8 in the morning until midnight. So it's tough to navigate in and out when you have 80,000 people headed to the game.
Well, that's good to know. I'm going to tell our director that I don't get pizza on those days. So hopefully moving forward, I get a Papa John's pizza delivered to my house.
Or maybe Sue will bring her dip or something like that.
Yeah, or maybe I'll just have Joan send me one.
That's good stuff. Kyle, what about you? You got any other ones?
I have a question for you, Reece. With obviously no fans in the stands, or very few, are you selling for 2021 now? I mean, are you focused on 2021, knowing that you're going to have minimal fans, if at all, this year?
Yep. So we're going through renewals right now. So basically the companies where their contracts are over after this season, we're asking them if they want to renew their contract for 5 more years. If they want to keep their suite, if say 5 companies say no, then my job is to go fill those 5 suites for next year. So yes, I'm already working on that. We know that a couple of companies are not coming back. So I'm proactively reaching out to people to try to get people to buy those suites for next year. The challenge I'm running into is that people don't know what next year is going to look like, and companies aren't working in the office right now. And so are they willing to write a check for that much money when they don't even know if they're going to be able to host customers or clients next year? Maybe we'll have fans, but maybe their company policy will be that they can't host people, because we're running into that a lot too, where some companies have a policy in place where they cannot host their clients all the way until the end of 2021 already. So I'm totally focused on 2021. If we do make the decision to have fans this year at any point, then I will focus some of my attention on selling single game suites for the games that we do have fans, but that's all to be determined. We don't know if we're going to have fans or when. So right now I'm just focused on 2021.
Well, it sounds like it's not doing too bad when you've only got 5 that are, that you know of that maybe aren't coming back, right?
Yeah, we'll see. It's early. we just went out with renewals, so we'll see where we're at. Time probably December rolls around, but I think for the most part we'll be in good shape. People probably will be kind of cooped up and ready to get back to sports. And say if you're a company and you can host people, you're going to be ready to host your clients because you need to build those relationships with your clients as well. So I think people will be ready to get back to a sporting atmosphere, pending, it's safe and everyone's able to next year.
Well, Kyle, if you don't have any more questions, I will proceed to, I always have an ending to my the speaker series. I always put an ending on it, and Reece, will start with you, but both of you, I'd like your parting shot. I've called it the parting shot. Is your tip, advice, any type of trick that maybe you understand that you've experienced or you've told other people that could be that one thing that could take them to a job or help them through their career, or just a parting piece of wisdom from you guys at the end of the show. So Reece, we'll start with you.
That's a good question. I don't think there's one thing that stands out for me. I think it's just being able to network with people. Don't be afraid to reach out to anyone in the sports industry. Email me after this. I'm always happy to jump on a call and give advice or help out if I can. Write a letter of recommendation. I'm sure Joan will do the same and talk to you on a one-on-one basis. But yeah, I think it's just being able to connect with as many people as possible and staying positive no matter what. And I don't think there's one thing that I would say besides just keep going and do your best and stay positive. And again, just connect with as many people as you can, because you never know who's going to be that champion person that kind of takes you along with them and helps you out in your career.
I would say a couple things, mainly because I'm never at a loss for words. But the first thing would be, if you get an internship at a sports team, what I see is a lot of interns the last week before they leave will try and come in your office and get to know you. It's too late. Try and get to know as many people as you can on staff. Try and help other people. Try and learn from them. It used to be in the work world, if you got an internship somewhere, it was almost a guarantee they would hire you. I would say, and Reece, you can correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it's a 4 or 5% chance that we'd probably even hire an intern on. But many of the interns that come from us do end up at either an internship or a full-time job with a sports team somewhere else. So just getting your foot in the door and then experience is great. And I know sometimes it's a generational thing. You really want to focus on work-life balance. It is definitely not a 9-to-5 job or 8-to-5 job. You have to put in a ton of hours. So if your lifestyle is very 8-to-5, this might not be the profession for you. I think, within the operations, there are some departments that have more traditional hours, but more often than not, I would say 90% of the people in the building, look, you're going to have to work nights, you're going to have to work weekends, game day, you're going to have to work till the job is done. So, if you're on the social side of things and love content, there is no off season. Content runs 24/7. People are going to be paying you 24/7. So you can have a life, but just know that, it might crush your lifestyle. And then last, I would say hard work goes a really long way. You do not have to be an A+ student. I certainly was not until my master's program, when I tried really hard, but my undergrad, I wasn't an A student, I was a B student. But you know what, street smarts and also the component of hard work and being able to help others. Hey, if an intern popping in saying, hey, this is on the printer, it looks like it's yours. Is there anything you need help with? I've always been interested in, this. Someone might give you a project and you might get a taste of what another department is doing, or, you might get exposure from that director or manager or whomever. So don't be afraid to be outgoing and show your stuff when you can right out of the gate.
That's awesome advice from both of you. I love that. I love what you both said there. It's sums everything up that we're trying to do in our program. So thank you to Joan and Reece for coming on here tonight. Our next edition will be next Wednesday, when we have Eric Smith. He's the public address announcer for the Los Angeles Clippers, the LAFC, and University of Southern California football. And he will be joining us at 5 o'clock next Wednesday. You can get registered with that. We'll be sending out the link here shortly. I don't know if Kyle shared that yet, but if he not, he will be after this. So thank you again, Joan. Thank you again, Reece, for coming on. And hopefully